Hello, class. Steve again here with part two of our midterm presentations. This presentation is going to be on Russia's foreign policy from our book, Great Decisions. So let's go ahead and begin. Okay, so the book kind of starts off by stating the history of the bad blood that we have with Russia and where it originally came from. So dating back a little over 100 years ago, the Russian Revolution had occurred. This revolution removed Russia from the Allied coalition that was fighting Germany. In response to this, Woodrow Wilson made his statement, the 14 points meant to establish the U.S. as the head of the international order. This ended up shaping and being the basis for the tension between the U.S. and Russia that still continues on today. Uh, so early leaders of Russia. Boris Yeltsin became the first leader of Russia post-Soviet rule. He originally believed that communism was dead in Russia and had a firm belief that the U.S. and Russia were natural allies. Eventually, though, Russia came to the conclusion that a relationship with the West simply wasn't going to happen. Ultimately, though, the Clinton administration fully supported Yeltsin and saw him as the only alternative to the communist rule and communist backlash. Under the rise of Putin, Yeltsin's popularity had dropped to 6% amongst his people towards the end of his service as leader. This eventually brought on financial support from the Clinton administration. Ultimately, it was an effort in vain, though, because Putin, the former Russian prime minister, was then given the power by Yeltsin on January 1st of 2000. So Putin had a little bit of involvement in the three countries that I listed below as well. Originally, he had the idea to establish direct rule in Chechnya, but later second-guessed it. This, however, didn't stop him from destroying the capacity of Chechen guerrillas to wage large-scale organized warfare against Russia in the Second Chechen War, as stated in the book. Putin then set out to stop Georgia from re-upping with their NATO agreement, and then on to his work in the Ukraine. The involvement in Ukraine basically revolved around the idea of seizing Crimea. This allowed Putin to extend communism and fill his theories of these power vacuums without overextending his reach and then following in the footsteps of the earlier Soviet Union collapse. So a little bit more on Putin and his work in Ukraine. To add on to Putin's involvement in Ukraine, he also really didn't believe Ukraine was necessarily a country, and he knew that they were under Russia's thumb. This led to a few instances that included Russia heavily intervening in the political and economic climate of Russia. Following that, in January of 2006 and 2009, Putin cut off the natural gas supply in order to put pressure on President Viktor Yushchenko. And another big statement made by Putin was the embargo that he actually placed on Ukraine imports. On to Russia and Syria. So there were kind of some conflicting ideologies in regards to the United States and Russia in their actions with Syria. The United States wanted to hold Syrian leaders accountable for their attacks on civilian populations. On the contrary, Russia had supplied Assad, or the leader of Syria at the time, his army with weapons that helped them fight back against the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. Putin's main interest in securing, his main interest focused on securing his fragile southern border and his interest in the North Caucasus from the Central Asia that were fighting for ISIS. So on to the ceremonial reset. The Obama administration wished to accomplish a few things with the ceremonial reset with Clinton that involved Hillary Clinton. This included reducing offensive nuclear weapons, entering Russia into the World Trade Organization, or WTO, Russia cooperating with the U.S. in limiting nuclear weapons in Iran, revamping the process of the U.S. paying Russia for delivery of decommissioned bombs and missiles, and deferral of anti-ballistic missile system in Eastern Europe. Along with that, the U.S. and NATO allies to transport military supplies or expansion of the Northern Distribution Network. So on to where we currently are with Russia. Currently our relations with Russia are as bad as they were or worse since the Cold War era. There are a few ongoing investigations regarding the Russian involvement in the 2016 election. And then just a few recommendations that were actually given by the book on how we can improve our relations and communications and such with Russia is actually to broaden the confidential dialogue with Russia among both civilian and military officials. Um, Also, we kind of need to team up to curb North Korea's interest in nuclear arms. And then also, air communication in Syria must improve to avoid incidents. Unfortunately, though, myself and the book states that our relationship with Russia really won't ever improve necessarily until Putin is out of power. There's my reference. Thank you again for watching, guys, and good luck with the rest of the semester.